It is 5:30. I will call the regular city council meeting for the city of International Falls to order. It is Monday, June 1st at 5:30. Due to Minnesota statute 13D.021, which allows meetings to be conducted by telephone or other electronic means under the following conditions. The mayor has determined an in-person meeting or a meeting conducted under section 13D.02 is not practical due to a health pandemic. The mayor and all councilors participating in the meeting can hear one another and can hear all discussion. Councilor Nelson, are you able to hear us, and can we hear you?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, sounds good. Attendance by the public is not feasible to a health pandemic, but we are allowing people to come in, and we do have audience today, which is fantastic. At least one member of the city council is physically present at the regular meeting, and all votes are conducted by a roll call vote, so each member can vote on any issue recorded. At this time, I would ask for the city council to approve the agenda. There are no additions at this time. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I so move, Councilor Buller.
We have a motion by Councilor Buller to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
Councilor Deitch, second.
We have a second by Councilor Deitch. Any discussion, questions, concerns? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Councilor Deitch.
Aye.
Councilor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilor Kraus.
Aye.
Councilor Buller.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from our May 18th City Council meeting. Chair would entertain a motion to adopt or to accept those minutes at this time.
So moved, Councilor Deitch.
We have a motion by Councilor Deitch. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilor Kraus. Any questions, concerns, information regarding the minutes of May 18th? Hearing none, I will call the question. Councilor Deitch.
Aye.
Councilor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilor Buller.
Aye.
Councilor Kraus.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have the special city council meeting of May 27th, which purpose was to help businesses through helping businesses with seating and special requests during the pandemic. Chair would entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
Move.
We have a motion by Councilor Kraus. Do we have a second?
Second,
We
Councilor
have a,
Deitch.
we have a second by Councilor Deitch. Any discussion, questions, concerns? Hearing none, Chair would call the question. Councilor Deitch.
Aye.
Councilor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilor Kraus.
Aye.
Councilor Buller.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have the payments of claims. I do want to preface this with a little piece of information that did come out of our budget and finance meeting last week or a week and a half ago. Time is flying. The City Council did, in a committee of the whole, have a discussion on paying the accounts payable for the Airport Commission. We have not received our portions of the money from the county. We have had a conversation, myself and Councilor Buller, at the last Airport Commission, different than what our City Council in our Committee of the Whole had decided. We did let the Airport Commission know that we definitely need to have them pay their half of the payments up front. However, we are going to give them 30 days so that they can have some conversations with city staff and Administrator Anderson and the Administrator Herman are able to figure out how we're going to work through this. So it would be my recommendation, which does differ from what we had discussed at our budget and finance meeting, to pay these claims. And as I understand it, Administrator Anderson, have you had conversations with the county on this particular issue?
Mayor and Council, yes, we did have a conversation today. We had an hour and a half meeting, the finance officer, myself, and the administration director.
Okay, so we are working forward for a resolution to be able to pay these claims. But as of right now, the claims, in my opinion, should be paid. And if there are any on the 16th, that would be the same thing, but we will have to reassess this in July. So we have city transfers of $33.53. That is the lodging tax fund. Accounts payable, regular International Falls City claims of $230,871.90. Airport commission claims of $38,710.51. Airport runway project phase 2 claims of $814,274.44, and runway reconstruction project phase 3 claims of $123,513. That is a total of accounts payable and claims of $1,207,369.85. The chair would entertain a motion to authorize those payments and adopt the resolution.
Councilor Buller, I so move.
We have a motion by Councilor Buller. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilor Kraus. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Councilor Deitch.
Aye.
Councilor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilor Kraus.
Aye.
Councilor Buller.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have audience. This is an open forum. Anybody either in the council chambers or online that would like to bring something to the attention of the city council at this time, you are on the agenda. No, we'll get you in a second. Anybody on the phone? You would have to hit *6 to unmute yourself, or all right, everyone is all right. All right. If you are online and you want to speak, you also can go into the chat box, and in the chat box we can definitely see that you want in, and we can also unmute you. Let's see, we do have one person in chat. Oh, I got unmuted. I got muted. All right. All right, I am unmuted. We will continue on. So our first item under regular business.
I'm asking a question.
Who?
Just came unmuted, that's why I just wanted.
All right, please bear with us as we try to get through this whole COVID thing. We're doing our best we can. First, we have a public hearing. This is the first reading of the contract ordinance approving the lowest responsible bid for the 2020 CIPP sanitary sewer rehabilitation project to Drain Services Incorporated in the amount of $399,892.05. Chair would entertain a motion for the first reading of that contract ordinance.
Councilor Buller, I so move.
We have a motion by Councilor Buller. Do we have a second?
Second, Councilor Deitch.
We have a second by Councilor Deitch. This is a public hearing. If anyone has anything that they'd like to discuss on the award being in $399,892.05 to Drain Services Incorporated, now would be the time to bring that up.
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
I guess my only question is, we had pushed this back because of a vetting process. So Administrator Anderson, were we able to get the information that we wanted about the company and everything's legit?
Yes, Mayor, Council, after the discussion or review that WSN or WINSET, now our consulting engineers, had performed, they were comfortable with moving forward with the recommendation to move forward.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so any other questions, concerns? All right, hearing none, I will call the question. Counselor Deitch?
Aye.
Counselor Nelson?
Aye.
Counselor Buller?
Aye.
Counselor Kraus?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. The second reading of the contract ordinance 967 approving the lowest responsible bid for the 15th Street Improvement Project to KGM Contractors in the amount of $365,560.20. Chair would entertain a motion for the second reading of that bid.
Councilor Buller, I so move.
We have a motion by Councilor Buller. Do we have a second?
Second, Counselor Deitch.
We have a second by Councilor Deitch. Any discussion, questions, or concerns? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Counselor Deitch.
Aye.
Counselor Nelson.
Aye.
Counselor Kraus.
Aye.
Counselor Buller.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Next is the second reading of the contract ordinance 968, approving the lowest responsible bid for the 2020 street improvements to KGM Contractors in the amount of $977,688.50. Chair would entertain a motion to have the second reading at this time.
Councilor Buller, I so move.
We have a motion by Councilor Buller. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilor Kraus. Any discussion? And I should have on the last one as well. This is open to the public. If you have anything you want to bring up, you can discuss it now. It is a public hearing. You would have to unmute yourself if that's what you would like to do, or go in the chat and bring up that you want to speak. All right. Hearing none, I will call the question at this time. Counselor Deitch.
Aye.
Counselor Nelson.
Aye.
Counselor Kraus.
Aye.
Counselor Buller.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Those bids will be awarded. We will have the second reading of the drain services at our next city council meeting. Next, we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda is to approve license renewal for Cater For You LLC itinerant restaurant. We do not have discussion on the consent agenda. Chair would entertain a motion to allow that license renewal at this time.
So moved, Counselor Deitch.
We have a motion by Councilor Deitch. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilor Kraus. Any question? Councilor Deitch.
Aye.
Councilor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilor Buller.
Aye.
Councilor Kraus.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0.
You did it on purpose that time.
No, I really don't. For some reason, it just rolls off the tongue, Buller, and then you, and I'm really sorry for that.
All right.
Be counting for.
Whatever. It's fine.
We're going to hit everybody every time.
I'll
I
get
promise.
back.
All right, next we go to consider the quest for the community market. Teresa's with us. If you want to come up to the microphone and speak.
Hi. We've been talking actually with the mayor before about this. Everybody's been thinking about all the other businesses in town to open, but we've also got our crafters, our direct sales, our farmers that nobody's really thought about. So what we would like to do is open up a community market, which we did have one a couple of years ago, but nobody really wanted to take over it. So we talked to the mayor about it, and next year maybe converting it in with the concerts in the park. But for this year, we would like to have it over at Barajas, just to start it off with, because it's going to be small. It's not going to be this major thing in the first year. We understand that. We would be following social distancing, with the COVID and everything. We've already talked to Ruben Baraja over there, and he's on board with us doing that. We met with him today. We just need to get the okay from the city council now.
And as I understand it, they have filled out the correct paperwork. Is there any reason that we should be not accepting this at this time? Ken or Betty, is all the paperwork correct?
I mean, should we, we ask that she filled out a license application, as long as she's on private property and they're conducting this on Bahara's property, there are no other city license requirements due. There are, documentation in our ordinances that, they're exempt from a transient merchant, peddler, or solicitor to do that type of a sale.
Okay. Well, then the chair would entertain a motion to allow the request to conduct a community market as outlined in their application.
Councilor Buller, I so move.
We have a motion by Councilor Buller. Do we have a second?
Second,
We have a
Councilor
second
Deitch.
by Councilor Deitch. Any discussions, questions, concerns?
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
I think this is a wonderful idea.
Thank you.
So this is great. It's an opportunity to get something that you might not be able to get somewhere else. So
Well,
fresh.
Just to get
we
an
want to
event
keep it
and just to
local.
get an event.
Right.
It's great.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, honestly, with, many don't consider us businesses, but we really are. We're small businesses, and it's not so much to have an event. It's, we need to, work ourselves.
Yep.
So, and I hate to say it, but the
Great.
bass tournament, is one of the biggest ones for us, but we may not be able to do that.
It's wonderful. I remember as a child going to the country markets, more so in Brainerd than here. Wonderful.
It is a really good idea for this town, and, not only the town, the local area, because, we've got so many people.
Do you know when it's, I was looking, is there a schedule yet, or still
We'd
working
like
on
to
that?
start this Saturday.
Okay.
I'm going to, as soon as I get the okay from y'all, going to be putting it all over Facebook, putting flyers around town. We've got a lot of people supporting us, so we'll be getting it all over, and hopefully I Falls Nice is nice enough to allow us to post on there.
I don't know why they would.
We'll see if they do
We'll
that.
see what Ted has to say about that.
But
Well,
no,
that's
yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah,
we've
that's great.
the last few days, Elizabeth and myself have been working. We've all, like we said, talked to Harley about it. We have a lot of plans for it, and we know that with the advertising and the promoting of it and everything, it's going to be successful.
It's
Like I said,
exciting. This
it
is
is.
exciting.
Well, fantastic. All right, any other questions from the council? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Councilor Deitch?
Aye.
Councilor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilor Kraus?
Aye.
Councilor Buller?
Aye.
And I will vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Hope to see you on Saturday.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Next, we have the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, the CARES Act Airport Grant Agreement for the International Falls Koochiching County Airport Commission. Ken, do you want to give us a little background on this?
Very briefly, Mayor, this is a grant application that was prepared and shows that the CARES Act is granting $1,078,000 to the Airport Commission, and that again is directly related to the COVID-19 and the federal support for the airport system, and so we're getting about $1,078,000. And in order to do that, we need to execute this grant agreement. It's my understanding that the county board adopted this at their meeting last Tuesday.
Okay. All right, so the chair would entertain a motion to approve the U.S. Department of Transportation grant.
Councilor Buller, I so move.
We have a motion by Councilor Buller. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councilor Kraus. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Councilor Deitch?
Aye.
Councilor Nelson?
Aye.
Councilor Kraus?
Aye.
Councilor Buller?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Next, approve the appointment of Evan Wimmer as a part-time patrol officer effective upon successfully meeting all the employment requirements. Chief Maston, do you have anything to add to that?
Not really, Mr. Mayor. I think as the council probably knows, over the past few years, our part-time roster has dwindled a bit, and the number of applicants have also gone down. Mr. Wimmer is just freshly out of school and just passed his licensing examination. He completed his internship with us while going to school, and he's on the eligible list from the Civil Service Commission, and we'd like to bring him on board. I think he'd be a good addition to the city.
Fantastic. And then I guess I just have a question on the resolution. On the paperwork in the agenda, it has the resolution okay, it's correct in the packet. All right, so resolution to appoint Evan Wimmer, the chair would entertain a motion to make that hire.
So move, Counselor Deitch.
We have a motion by Councillor Deitch. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councillor Kraus. Any discussion? Hearing none. Councillor Deitch.
Aye.
Councillor Nelson.
Aye.
Councillor Kraus.
Aye.
Councillor Buller.
Aye.
And I will vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have the resolution for the PERA declaration for the new part-time officer, Evan Wimmer, who we just hired. Chair would entertain a motion to adopt that resolution.
Councilor Buller, so move.
We have a motion by Councillor Buller. Do we have a second?
Second, Deitch.
We have a second by Councillor Deitch. Any questions, cause, concern? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Councillor Deitch.
Aye.
Councillor Nelson.
Aye.
Councillor Kraus.
Aye.
Councillor Buller.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a second amendment to the loan agreement between the city and Officemax. Can you give us background, but can you come a little bit closer? I got a text that said that people are not able to hear too terribly well.
Is that mic on?
Mayor, just by way of
go into the,
Is it on?
yeah, but it has to get into the speaker.
So,
Is it on?
Yeah, it is. Still doesn't reach to the speaker. This is these speakers are the only things that.
So Mayor, just by way of a brief introduction, this resolution, as well as the two subsequent resolutions, are resolutions that were prepared by bond counsel in Chicago, Illinois, and it allows the Officemax to change their place of business from a Delaware corporation to a North Carolina corporation, and then it also allows a public holding company, ODP, to assume some management control over the bonds. And the City of International Falls served as a financial conduit back in 1997, 1998, and 1999 for, in this case, some pollution control revenue refunding bonds for the Boise Cascade Corporation. And so in order for them to move forward with the change in corporate headquarters, as well as the changes related to ODP, it's necessary for us as the issuer to approve these documents. And so bond counsel has prepared this resolution, as well as the subsequent two resolutions on the council agenda for action by the council to allow this to move forward. Their hope is sometime in mid-June to be able to get this authorization, get all the documents, and then complete the transaction. And there's a number of issuers around the country and in a number of states that are doing similar types of activities on behalf of Officemax.
Okay. Well, thank you. I would. Do we have to make it three separate? Well, it is three separate resolutions. All right. So the chair would entertain a motion to adopt the first resolution for the Boise Cascade in 1997.
Move.
We have a motion by Councillor Kraus. Do we have a second?
Second, Counselor Deitch.
We have a second by Councillor Deitch. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Councillor Deitch.
Aye.
Councillor Buller.
Aye.
Councillor Nelson.
Aye.
Councillor Kraus.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have the resolution for the Second Amendment for the 1998 resolution. Chair would entertain a motion to adopt that resolution.
So move, Counselor Deitch.
We have a motion by Councillor Deitch. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have
Councilor
a-
Buller.
We have a second by Councilor Buller. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Councilor Nelson, we are pausing to try and give you an opportunity to chime in. We're not trying to bully you, I promise. Sorry, not necessarily
Oh,
related.
that's okay. It sounds like I have a delay, so I don't want to jump on anybody.
Okay.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Councilor Deitch.
Aye.
Councilor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilor Kraus.
Aye.
Councilor Buller.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. And finally, for the Officemax resolutions that we're looking at today, we have the Second Amendment to the loan agreement, which would be the 1999. Chair would entertain a motion to adopt that resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Excellent choice. All right, we have a motion by Councilor Nelson. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Councilor Buller. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Councilor Deitch.
Aye.
Councilor Nelson.
Aye.
Councilor Kraus.
Aye.
Councilor Buller.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have a resolution to approve the request to advance encumber funds from the city's municipal state aid street fund. Background on this is we were trying to get the monies essentially before everyone else does in the state, right? I mean, that's really what it is. So we have multiple projects that are eligible for Minnesota state aid money. We want to encumber monies for what we receive from the state for the next couple of years to do some of the projects that we have on the forefront right now. I don't know specifically what those projects are, but I know what is eligible. Part of the 53 project is eligible, 15th Street is eligible, and a lot of the stuff that we're doing this summer. So that is the reasoning of why we are looking to advance encumber. And there is some truth to the matter of, as we're going into the state having some financial issues through the COVID, that we want to get that money up front as soon as we possibly can. So the chair would entertain a motion to approve the request to advance encumber from the city's municipal state aid street fund.
I so move. Councilor Buller.
We have a motion by Councilor Buller. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilor Nelson. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Councilor Buller?
Aye.
Councilor Kraus?
Aye.
Councilor Nelson?
Aye.
And Councilor Deitch?
Aye.
Motion carries
See what you
5-0.
did there. That's nice.
All right, next we have the discuss the use of four-wheelers and other recreational vehicles in city limits. I'm going to hand this off to Councilor Kraus. He was one of the big pushes in the beginning, and due to the COVID-19 situation where we haven't had committee meetings, it's kind of stalled a little bit, but this has been on his radar and a big push that he's had, so I will hand this off to Councilor Kraus at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I want to open this with an apology to the Land Use and Legislation Committee. It's my understanding that we had, when I chaired that committee, we had conversations, and then I know you guys had a conversation, I want to say in January, about this. The chief has been kind enough to weigh in several times on this. I guess right now what I kind of want to know is, do we want to have this conversation, or do we want to push it back to land use and legislation? The reason I ask is our goal was kind of to have this wrapped up by June, and COVID-19 has changed the world. But it is, right now is the time that they are using the ATVs in town. And currently, in our Muni Code, Chapter 8, Section 30, which covers snowmobiles and ATVs are faintly mentioned, but they're not really regulated as far as the city is concerned. And Chief Maston actually pointed out that our current regulations don't even make a distinguish between a Class 1 and a Class 2 ATV. I will say that I have been personally contacted by individuals, including a president of a trail club that's looking to expand to the area, and I've been on the street, I've been approached, kind of where are we at on this. So I just kind of want to have an open conversation about, do we want to push it back to land use and legislation and hope that we can come up with something, or do we want to have a conversation? I'm going to leave that kind of up to everybody, if we want to talk about it or push it back.
Please.
Councilor Buller, I don't feel I have enough information, or I won't say enough information, but have studied it enough to really know what we'd want for a discussion right now. I think land use and legislation would probably do a better job of doing it and then come to us with a recommendation. I think with the chief's input and everything would be the best way to go, is my feeling.
Councilor Deitch?
I would like to see this move forward also, but following up Commissioner Buller's comments, I agree, we don't have enough information to move forward.
Councilor Nelson?
I agree with sending it back to land use and legislation. I looked through the materials that Joe sent out, and I just don't want to say I don't have time to look at this really, really closely. It's just, if we can outsource to individuals that are more involved in that area, I think that may be best.
So I guess how we handle it right now is, it sounds like it should go back to land use and legislation, but let's, the chair would entertain a motion at this time for a commitment that we want to allow recreational vehicles in city limits, so that people know that this is one of the things that we are looking at passing. And yes, it's been a little while, but this is one of the commitments that we have. So if anyone on the council so chooses to, I think we should make a commitment that we are working on this for the residents, knowing that that's what we're doing.
I can make that motion. I can agree with that. May I also add that it really, at this point, I guess this comes from not only a discussion piece, but really a safety piece. For anybody that knows where I live in between 8th and 9th Avenues on 11th Street. So the alley behind my house is a very well-traveled alley for individuals trying to get to the trail. And I've got to be honest with you, at all hours of the night, they're going through there very quickly. And I think there's a lot of misconception about what you can and can't do on an ATV, which is causing these individuals to travel at exceptionally high rates of speed through my alley. I've heard, I would imagine that Councilor Nelson hears it as well, being my neighbor. It's really about safety at this point. So yeah, I would agree that we need to get it on the burner, but to have a conversation sooner than later to kind of let the public know exactly what they can and can't do. So my big fear is somebody's going to get hurt. They're going to hit a car. I own ATVs. They're moving and trying to get to that trail, because I think that the misconception is that they're safe once they get to the trail, or that may be the truth. But it comes from a place of safety. I'd like to see it get wrapped sooner than later.
Okay. So do we want to send this to land use and legislation with a commitment that we want to have it back to the city council within 30 days?
Assuming we can have a meeting, then yeah, I would make that motion.
Okay.
That they can hold a meeting to talk about it.
I'm fairly certain we can work something out.
I think so.
Especially now that we're able to come back and be in everything. Yes. So we have a motion to try to hammer this out within 30 days and bring it back to the city council. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilor Deitch. We have a motion from Councilor Kraus. Any discussion?
What's your take on this, Chief?
I agree with Councilor Kraus.
Yeah, I think we're all in the same agreement that we want to see it move forward, and I wanted to see this happen by June 1st. This is one of the things that we were looking at and we were putting a lot of effort into, but some other things kind of bubbled to the surface. So,
and Mr. Mayor, if I may, again, it's a matter of, I just kind of want people to know that we're talking about it, that, I can tell them, I can tell people when they call me or stop me that we're talking about it, but now it's on the public record. It's on our minds.
Yep.
And again, it is a safety issue. I really do fear at some point somebody's going to get hurt trying to get to the trail.
And if I may, I think it's important too that the chief knows about it and that the officers are going to know about it. So hopefully, if somebody is violating going terrible fast, yeah, but if somebody's not, because we don't have it on there, if they're going from point A to point B and being decent about it, then I guess, we're looking at it. So it's good.
All right, sounds good. So we have a motion and a second to send this to land use and legislation and come back to the council within 30 days. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Councillor Deitch.
Aye.
Councillor Buller.
Aye.
Councillor Nelson.
Aye.
Councillor Kraus.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have consider 2020 summer event schedule and contingency planning. That involves the bass tournament, 4th of July celebration, and a co-sponsor of the Koochiching Labor Day Assembly picnic on Monday, September 7th. As most have heard, some of our summer entertainment has been canceled this year. That would be the concerts in the park, which is organized by I Falls Nice. I have worked with Rotary, and Rotary has made the determination that it makes sense, and not just Rotary, the City of International Falls, myself, and Rotary has had that conversation that it makes sense to move our 4th of July celebration, as other cities have throughout the course of this pandemic, to the Labor Day weekend. That still leaves, is that going to be able to be approved, and is the Labor Day Assembly going to be able to meet on Labor Day and the bass tournament? Tough decisions. I have been in conversation with email with the board of directors for the bass championship. I have spoke with Gary Potter regarding the bass championship, and as I understand it, the governor in his next wave of openings is going to look at a more regionalized approach. Since that information has come to me, I've been requested by the bass tournament to have a conversation with the governor's office regarding what milestones we have to reach, what makes sense for us to be able to continue these, and what the end of summer looks like, because we've pushed all of our festivals to the end of the year. It was my intention to have a meeting with the governor last Friday. Much like COVID-19, some things happened last week, and it changed that outlook, so I was not able to get a hold of Councillor Buller to have that meeting. I have not been rescheduled or contacted by the governor's office on when we can meet. It is my intention to advocate for safe festivals with the bass tournament, with the Labor Day picnic, and with the 4th of July celebration, and meet all the requirements that the state puts forth if these events go forward. However, we need to know what the rules are going to be when those events take place. If we can't meet the rules and requirements that are going to be set for us, we need to know that so that we can cancel and make other plans. It would be my number one intention to keep these projects going forward. I would love to see the bass tournament in some capacity, as long as it's safe for our residents to be at. If that does not work, I would support their decision to cancel. But that's where we're at. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. We're doing everything in our power to have those open lines of communications with our partner organizations, but until we know what the future holds, we just don't know. And I would open up for council discussion on this, but I think that's really where we're at.
Mr. Mayor,
please.
I was contacted last week by Mr. Thorpe, and we've had a couple conversations about the Labor Day picnic. primarily with it being their big event, and it being Labor Day, and they're the Labor Assembly. It's my understanding that the Labor Assembly is following the news and following the recommendations very closely. One thing that Mr. Thorpe did mention is it's his understanding that there is a timeline for closing 3rd Street since it's a state highway. So that's part of why they came forward right now. It's my understanding that they are not necessarily planning to move forward with it. It's just a matter of getting their permitting in place if it is safe. But I mean, he's even talked about potentially doing like a drive up, like whatever capacity they can do it in, that it's safe. I think this application is more so to get the ball rolling on the 3rd Street closure that they're asking for. And then secondly, one thing that we did discuss, and I don't know how to bring it. There was a story in the newspaper that was written about the Rotary and the Falls potentially pushing the 4th of July celebration to Labor Day. But that Monday is typically kind of their day. So they were concerned that they didn't, I guess they're asking that celebration doesn't roll into Monday to kind of roll over, if it is in fact that weekend, to kind of roll over, that they can still have their, and one of the main things that the Labor Assembly really prides themselves on is this is a free event. So it costs, they're giving, it's free food. So, and then it gives people a reason to come together as a community. And so I guess for me personally, I would be okay doing a contingent approval of this application, as in let's get the ball rolling to get the street closed, and say that right now, assuming it can be done safely, move forward with it, but at some point with the understanding that if we have to push it back or cancel it, we still have that opportunity. But that way we're not trying to do it a week before and not being able to get the street closed. Does that make sense?
Was that your Cynthia Jacksaw motion?
That's my Cynthia Jacksaw motion, yes.
Okay. So the motion is to allow the road closure and the use of Smoky Bear Park for Labor Day, for the Labor Day Assembly. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a second by Councillor Deitch and a third by Councillor Nelson. Please.
The only thing I've got concerned with, and I could see it working if they do the drive-through, hand a sandwich and leave, and if that takes place, they can do that over on 2nd. They don't have to have 3rd closed up, because that's a state highway permit that we're going to have to apply for, and they're going to have to approve that. And once it's approved, does it mean that it goes on record that street is closed during that time, whether it is or not, and whether we have it or not? But I'm thinking if they have that, it could very easily set up on the other end and do the distributing on 2nd Street and not even bother 3rd. And that's the only thing I can see that could happen, because, I mean, I look at the permit, he says there's going to gather 1,200 people in the park. It's like, that ain't going to happen,
Well, and I think that's where rightfully so, I understand that, and I think that's where the concern is for these events, is what are we going to be able to do at the end of summer? Because if the bass tournament can go on, then, if that makes sense, then the 4th of July makes sense, and then that, I just don't know where anything is. And I understand your point, but if we are still trying to have the 4th of July on Labor Day weekend, the Saturday technically is our 3rd, and Sunday is our 4th, and then Monday is Labor Day with the assembly. The one concern that I have spoke with Mr. Thorpe about is being alcohol-free on that Monday, and I respect that decision quite a bit, and I have talked to Rotary about that, and they accept and understand that too, that if we allow beer gardens would be Saturday, beer gardens would be Sunday, and then Monday would be an alcohol-free day with the vendors out of the park. Again, all of this is contingent on whether or not we are able to have these events. And until we know, I mean, we would still need to have road closures for Sunday.
Do we know how long it takes to get a permit, Ken, from MnDOT?
30 days.
30 days? So.
Yeah, and as I've dug through previous paperwork from Mayor Anderson, I found the form of how it's been sent in the past. It's literally an email or a letter with the 5 dates that we requested off, which are the Labor Day Assembly, the 4th of July Bass Tournament, the corn and brat feed at the Elks, and Icebox Days. So they're all written down on one sheet. Last year it was a little bit different because we also had to get one for the the Black Friday parade, the Christmas parade, but that ended up being an outside group that ended up filing for that. So all of these are questions and concerns that we have to move forward with, but the elephant in the room is, are we going to be able to do it? And that's why you and I need to have that conversation with the governor's office on how we move forward.
Well, and we've got time yet for this. If it's 30 days, those are the two events that are still up in the air yet, and I think we've got Bass Tournament, or Bass Championship meeting tomorrow night, and I'm thinking that something's going to come out of that, of what we're going to do, because our biggest problem right now is we can't get vendors up here.
Right.
People don't want to come up here with their food trucks. Nobody wants to come up here with their crafts because they don't want to take the chance of this thing being a flop, And we can't have the tent. You can't pile all those people in the tent, and it's a tough decision. And I've been called from numerous fishermen that want to fish. They want to have that tournament. They want to have it. And it's like, and then I've invited. I think Billy said there'll be 4 coming tomorrow night to our meeting to discuss it also, so we can figure out something. I mean, it's tough.
Well, and these are tough decisions that we're having all the way around. I think, well, I mean, we can discuss a lot of how we've had these summer projects have went. People thought that the reason that the concerts in the park was canceled was because of social distancing in the park. It had nothing to do with social distancing in the park. Their decision was based off of all of the 100% of the funds that pay the entertainment comes from our local businesses that have been closed for the last 2 months. So how do you go to our businesses that are suffering right now and ask them to help support a concert series in the summer? So that's a concern. For the 4th of July celebration, one of the big concerns that we have is how do we file for a state road closure when the state says you can't have a parade? How do you make that? How in any good effort do you send in that paperwork to the state? We definitely have had multiple difference of opinion for the 4th of July celebration. When you talk about the fireworks, some, including me, thinks that you could do the fireworks safely because you have social distancing. People can see them from anywhere. When we had the F-16s fly over, you could see those anywhere from town. But we do have specific gathering points where people are going to go, and we could probably do the fireworks, but if we pushed everything out to the end of summer and we did something on Labor Day, that would be an option too. Then the question is, if we push everything out to Labor Day, the next day is a school day, so now you have all the kids and everybody out. The next day is your first day of school. Do we have school? Is school starting in September? I mean, these are all questions that we don't know yet, and we need to get a better grasp from the state to be able to address these concerns. But as of right now, we have a motion and a second on the floor for...
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may then, and Councilor Deitch has got this, I guess knowing now that it takes only 30 days to get the permitting done, correct? Could, with your blessing as the second, I would, rather than taking this to a vote and voting it no, I would rather motion to table it for the next meeting, and we may have some clarity 14 days from now. Yeah. I don't want to say no right now. Does that make sense? I'm not comfortable. But I'm not comfortable saying yes either. So I guess I would like to amend my motion to just table this until the next meeting. In 14 days, we may have some clarity, and if we have to kick it down the road again, we certainly could kick it to the July meeting, and we'd still have time. Does that make sense?
Sure, my thought, I can accept that. My thoughts are just, we should allow them to do what they're requesting, and if something changes, talk to them. When I talked to Mark, he was pretty open that he understands that, this may or may not go, but he also had pointed out to me that it's easier to plan an event and cancel it than to try to get it going at the last minute. So
then I will, with that being said, I will pull back my proposed amendment and stick with the original.
All right. Is everyone fine with that? So that we still have the initial motion is to allow the use of Smoky Bear Park and the road closure of 3rd Street for Labor Day. Any other discussion or questions?
Mayor.
Please.
Not directly related to this, but somewhat related, is at some point, I think the city council needs an affirmative motion. If you are going to push the 4th of July celebration and activities to Labor Day weekend, I think we need an affirmative motion by the whole council to do that, because we do have either an ordinance or a charter provision stating that we are going to have a 4th of July celebration. And, the existence of a pandemic would warrant a change. It's not necessarily not having it, but a postponement. We are at June 1st, and if you don't have an affirmative motion saying that you're going to push it to Labor Day, we're close to that 30-day timeline we needed to decide. So
Okay.
That's not directly related to this motion, but it's something as part of this conversation I think the council needs to consider.
Appreciated. Thank you. All right. So no other discussion on the Labor Day Assembly, Labor Day picnic. We have a motion to approve the closure of 3rd Street and allow them to use Smoky Bear Park. At this time, I will call the question. Councillor Deitch.
Aye.
Councillor Nelson.
Aye.
Councillor Kraus.
Aye.
Councillor Buller.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. So next is a next piece of any other business, which makes sense. As the city administrator just pointed out, it is the 4th of July celebration is in our city charter. And for us to push it back, we need to have a city council affirmative action saying that we are moving it based off of having a health pandemic. So the chair would entertain a motion to move the 4th of July celebration to the Saturday and Sunday of Labor Day weekend. Well, as a member of the city council, I would make the motion to move the 4th of July celebration to the Saturday and Sunday preceding Labor Day.
29th and 30th.
Do we, the 29th and, no.
No, it's not. 5th and 6th.
The 5th and 6th of September. The chair, so do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Councillor Kraus. Any discussion? Questions, concerns?
Mr. Mayor?
Please.
Is this, so, and maybe this is more for Administrator Anderson, so this is just saying right now that we're going to move, that we can still celebrate the 4th, but we're not going to celebrate it on the 4th, but we would still have the opportunity, if it's not safe at that point, to move it or cancel, correct?
Well, Mayor and Council, I think that the decision, we are moving it, but there still has to be an affirmative decision sometime in mid-July at the latest to give us enough time. And we do have to submit a permit application, site plans. The former letter that we used to use isn't sufficient. There's an actual application process that MnDOT has in place now for closure of roads. So we need to do that by mid-July to know by mid-August for a September timeframe. And so you can delay the decision about whether or not you actually want to go forward, but I think this action is necessary so that we can push off the planning and the application for the road closure on the 4th of July weekend. And again, the council has to consider everything and what the governor through executive orders is going to allow or not allow at that time, or what we anticipate will happen around Labor Day. Because right now, those large events, everybody's canceling.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have a motion and a second to move the 4th of July to the 5th and 6th of September. And we'll be getting more information from the governor's office on how we proceed and ultimately if we're able to do that. So at this time, the chair would call the question. Councillor Deitch?
Aye.
Councillor Nelson?
Aye.
Councillor Kraus?
Aye.
Councillor Buller?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we go to the boards, committees, and department heads. City Administrator.
Well, Mayor, as you pointed out earlier, we had a staff meeting for about an hour and a half with the county regarding the airport, and so we had that meeting. And then I would just add that on Friday, we had sent the bridging plan with the option 1 scenario that the Budget and Finance Committee thought was appropriate, I believe, moving forward. So we did submit that paperwork to North Cooch on Friday. So that's been submitted, and I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. City Attorney?
I don't have anything special to report, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Okay. Department heads? Any department heads? Please.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I guess I'd just like to point out to the council, or let the council know for your information. Obviously, there's been a lot of turmoil going on in our state and across our country, some of which is getting a little close to home. But I think it's important for the council to know that I'm in close contact with our partnering resources. Our officers stand ready to answer calls should it come. I receive timely information on what's going on in our state and in our region. The other chiefs, we're all in constant contact. So we are paying attention. We do know what's going on. We are prepared to answer whatever call should come. I just think that's important that you guys know that and are reassured of that so you can express that to the citizens when they approach you. I don't come out online and put a lot of things out there on the Facebook pages about what we're planning, but I think it's important that you know that we are paying close attention.
And just to back up what Chief Maston had just said, I spoke with Chief Maston this morning and informed me of the weird situations that we're in, and I don't think that there's any hidden knowledge about this, but the people that are planning peaceful protests, they're starting off as peaceful protests, but there are people that are coming into communities and joining those peaceful protests not to stay peaceful, to enact harm to the communities, the businesses, and that is being seen as far north as Duluth and Bemidji. So
I've read a lot of the things online from the citizens who are showing a lot of concern, business owners, and want to know that they're safe and protected. And I just want to reassure them that we read that, we're paying attention, we hear you, and we're here.
yeah, and I think that that's the message what our community needs to hear, that you are in close proximity with the Koochiching County Sheriff. You guys work together fantastically, and the Koochiching emergency response team. We have everything in place. There was some questions in the last couple of days about closing or putting in a city curfew. And we don't have any intel that would say at this point that we have a direct risk. But if something were to change, Chief Maston will definitely get a hold of me, and if we have to put a curfew in place or do something, we definitely will. We are not at that point. The intel does not say that we are in that position at this time. Next, we go to the reports of the mayor, council, committees, boards, and commissions. I would just say that I did put out a statement today personally in regards to the situation that has started in Minneapolis and how my outlook on this is. And I stand with those that are frustrated. I stand with the peaceful protesters, and I stand with our police that are there every day to protect us. I look at the world as, there are good and bad and everything, and this is no different. And I have so much respect for our police and for our residents of our community. I did send out an email this weekend to all of the police officers just with my thoughts and let them know that if they're struggling in any capacity, seeing their fellow officers across the state going through what they are, to be able to call Sandy Creek, because we need them both mentally and physically healthy for whatever comes up. So I have a ton of respect for our community, our business owners, our police, and our residents going through this. We're really getting tasked. Holy moly. COVID, murder, hornets, riots. I mean, it's crazy. So that's all I have. Council committees, boards, commissions, do you guys have anything at this time?
Councilor Mayor.
Please.
I was going to bring this up under any other business, but we kind of skipped over that. Anyway, I'm very disappointed that we don't have a blight report today. We should have at least 3 blight reports for each council member here. And at our council meetings, the understanding was that we were going to have blight reports at every meeting. I've been fighting blight for 2 years now. And some of the blight issues that were there when I started on the council are still there. And I don't see their reports to see if anything's happening. I've reported several areas that people have called me, citizens have called me, they've been concerned about neighbors, blight issues, and I would like to see that these are addressed, and the way we were supposed to see that they're addressed is by these reports. And we're not getting them. Somebody's not doing their job. And I'm going to make enemies, as I said at the last meeting. We got to get out there and we got to do this. It's like blight doesn't matter in International Falls. I have, as I say, citizens here calling saying, hey, what's going on? Now, this one blight report has been on the books for who knows how long, and we're ignoring it. We've got to get going. We've got to get our officials out there that are supposed to be handling this and doing it.
Just as an update to that, they were emailed out from the fire chief today. I received it at 4 o'clock.
Isn't that a little late, though?
Our council meeting is at 5:30.
So, yeah, we had a council meeting at 4 o'clock today. How are we supposed to see something like that? We should have that in our packet.
Please.
Mayor, Council, Ken Anderson, the City Administrator, and as you indicated, a update was provided via email today. I had a conversation with Councilor Deitch this afternoon, and I've set up a meeting for 1:30 tomorrow for you and I to meet with the housing inspector, which would be the fire chief, so we can get an update and have a conversation about where we're at with the various projects where we've identified some blight scenarios. I do want to have a conversation with the city attorney to determine when we undertake blight activities, what level of information is public information versus what might be private information. And so I want to have a conversation with him sometime tomorrow morning. Hopefully I can get a response back as early as 1:30, but if not, nonetheless, we're still going to have that conversation with you as the chair of the Blight Committee so that we can have a conversation about what we've done so far, where we've done it, and what the status is. And then going forward, we, at the council direction, will have written reports as part of your city council meeting so that you have that, and whatever can be public will be made public in future meetings.
Okay, I guess I would like the department heads that do deal with blight, along with the mayor, at this meeting. It's not just Adam Manassa's responsibility. There's other heads that should be dealing with the houses, the buildings, the trash laying in the yard, the abandoned cars. I mean, it's not just one man. Adam is very busy. I understand that. And there's others that have to step forward and take responsibility. And if we have a part-time person now available, he should be at that meeting also.
Well, Mayor and Council, so I had a conversation with the zoning administrator this afternoon, and I will be getting an update from him that will be available for our meeting at 1:30. I don't know if the mayor is available tomorrow at 1:30, but he's more than welcome to join us, and so we need to have that conversation. The chief, part of about 1/3 of his duties are housing inspection duties, And for the first time today, we have a light duty, one of his personnel has started today doing light duty work, and they are assisting in the blight enforcement activities with our summer help. So essentially, we will have 2 people working 40 hours a week solely on blight enforcement and blight identification issues throughout the community for all of the summer. So
That's great.
we started that.
And with that being said, I did, in my office, being connected with Kelly Meyer's office, I did see that there is a lot of work that got done today just by having that light duty person in the room, so.
And that's what we need. But we do need these reports.
Mr. Mayor, may I
Please.
ask for clarification? When you say 3 reports, are you requesting that us other 3 counselors provide you?
No. I'm talking about the department heads that are in charge of blight in the various areas.
Okay, because when I do, I do want to go on the record and say when I do get a concerned citizen calling me about blight, I always actually pass it on to Chief Manassa or have a conversation with you or Administrator Anderson to let them know. But phone hasn't rang in a while about blight, so lots of other stuff to talk about, but blight hasn't really been on most of the
I thought for sure you were going to say, just pass it off on you.
I just pass it, yeah, I just give it to Harley. He can handle it. So.
And that's one of our problems. We just kind of ignore it. And as I say, I ran on blight, and I'm going to fight for blight. As far as I'm concerned, there's no use me being here if we're just going to push it under the rug.
Understandable. And in all honesty, the report that was offered today was pretty extensive of the things that have been resolved since the last month. And I don't have, I do have it up. But yeah, the information that did come in, if you have a chance to get into your email, there's 15 or 20 things since our last meeting that have been resolved moving forward. And there's also a handful of new things that are up there that are now on the clock and ticking. So,
Okay, just to reiterate, we need these reports before our meetings, not at 4 o'clock on the day of the meeting. We need them in our packet. I can't see why that can't happen.
okay,
I agree,
I would agree with that.
yeah,
100%.
sounds good. All right, do we have any other council committees that need to speak? All right, hearing none, I will go to audience forum. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the council? All right, hearing none, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.